think we're live.
Good morning, everybody. Todd, what are we going to talk about today?
What are we talking about today? Well, I was thinking about talking about, continuous learning and education.
Welcome to the Leaders Cafe, where leaders discuss the latest trends and issues in leadership, team building, and the future of organizations. Each week, we'll bring you engaging conversations with successful leaders who will share their insights, experiences, and strategies for creating effective teams, navigating change, and driving innovation. So sit back, relax, and join us for a virtual cup of coffee at the Leaders Cafe.
Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are at in this fine nation. And today, we are actually wrapping up our series on leadership, principles of leadership. And so then we're taking a vacation, a holiday break.
Yes, and let me back up just a second. And not everybody just in this nation, but this is a global podcast. Thank you to everybody in South Africa right now for listening.
Australia, New Zealand.
Yep.
The one person in China.
And that's probably a bot, you know.
The one person in China that found this leadership.
They don't get American podcasts over there. Something about radical ideas or freedom, or
maybe it's the president of China is here right now in the United States, and maybe he's listening.
That would be awesome. If you are, sir, we appreciate all the manufactured goods.
Absolutely. It makes our life easy. Why? We talk about this a lot, you and I. And I know, and I have it right here because let me pull it out again. Oh my Lord, there's lots of work being done. Here it is. The card, the desktop cards, the 7 habits of highly effective people. Right?
Yes, indeed.
I need to get Covey to give me some money because I talk about this a lot.
We talk about Covey quite a bit, don't we?
Yeah. But what's the 7th habit?
The 7th habit is sharpen the saw.
And that's
my favorite habit.
It is your favorite habit.
It is.
And that is why continuous learning is the most critical habit, right?
In my opinion, it is. Because if you stop learning, you can't expect progress.
Yes. Absolutely. So my daughter, who is 11, is learning about early colonial times and the mercantile system. Mm-hmm. Although she says it wrong, but it's kind of funny.
How does she say it?
Mercantile or something like that. And I'm like, I told my daughter, said that's not how it's pronounced. And she says, well, that's what my teacher said. So that's how she's pronouncing it. So for forever, she's going to be saying it wrong. But anyway, point is she's learning about this economic system in what she's 5th grade, right? And so, but she's very interested in economics right now. Has been for a little while. And so we watched documentaries. She reads books. She reads books on it, all this kind of stuff. She's continuously learning, and I don't know if she's going to be an economist or not, but man, she's got it. But she's actually educating other people on economic systems, and I think it's kind of interesting. But the reason why I bring this up, she's 11, and she loves and she soaks it up, and she talks about it, and is excited about it. And there is this concept of being childlike in the way you learn. And what does that mean?
When we're young, we're just a sponge, and we're excited to learn everything except our times tables. Probably unless you're an economist.
She doesn't even like math. She's going to be a rude awakening.
You don't know. It's one of those things where you're just absorbing everything. And I wish I had that elasticity in my brain. 10% more would be awesome.
I think it's the enthusiasm.
Definitely enthusiasm. That definitely plays a role. I think one of the valuable lessons that is kind of taught without being taught is you finally get to leave the home, that sheltered environment, and now you're in a classroom with different people, cultures, languages, and there's so much learning that goes on without being taught just by interacting with new peers.
I think it's also being curious too.
Very much so.
Like, I don't know when this occurs, maybe middle school or something. But when the kids go through, oh, I don't know that. I got that. I already know this. Where they stop being curious,
Right.
for a small period of time. But I think the kids that thrive, and again, if anybody here who's an education expert, please correct me or jump in the conversation. But I think the kids that thrive in school are those that stay curious.
I think we need to discuss a little bit about the educators themselves, though, because we've all had educators that are just read this page, check the box, move on. And when you have an educator that inspires and entertains while you're learning, you're definitely more enthusiastic, motivated, and curious about the subject, just in the manner of which it's being delivered, right?
Sure. I mean, I'm not going into like our education system. I'm just talking about individual people,
Uh-huh.
and I think the people who stay curious, if you think about, I'm gonna say it. You think about people like Steve Jobs. For those that are listening, he just left. He turned off his camera.
So back to Steve Jobs. He reads one book on Steve Jobs.
Or Edison or Ford or those type of people who were disruptors in their time, were curious. And we could say we want to say about Edison, right? I mean, like, yeah, okay, did he bring Tesla in or whatever? But the point is, it wasn't necessarily that he was trying to take, maybe he did, take the credit for what other people's work is, but he funded and was curious and had a drive to answer questions. Right? And it's where Ford was curious, and he didn't invent the car, he just invented a better way of putting the car together. Steve Jobs didn't invent the computer, he just created a better way of putting it together. And was curious about innovation and what we could do. A Wozniak, for instance, same type of thing, right? Bill Gates, right? Again, how do systems work better, right? And so it's the curiosity. And speaking of Bill Gates, for instance, I mean, you and I have had different opinions on what it means to be productive, right? And like, your idea is wake up early, go to bed late, and just grind, right? Which is cool, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? But if you take a look at some of like the Gates, Musk, Jobs, those guys, they all had systems in place, and one of the things they would do, and Jobs is dead now, but what they do is they take time out of their workday to explore, to read, to do other than grinding. And I think that's part of the continuing education process that I think that we should talk about a little bit more than just taking courses and reading,
Yeah, but I've worked taking courses into my grind. It's not like I'm only working and not learning. It's just a portion of each day I'm grinding, getting through a subject matter I don't know very well or want to, become better at. And that's just part of my day.
Right.
I'm not, walking the campus in my sweater, pondering life.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No, absolutely not. We call it hiking.
Right. No. I mean, but what I meant by that is taking that walk.
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten to a routine where I walk my dog every morning,
Uh-huh.
right? After I drop off except for Thursdays. I drop my daughter off to school. I come home and I walk my dog for a couple miles. Number one, it's healthy for me, but number two, she needs to walk, right? And I'll either do one or two things. I'm either going to consume with one earbud in because I want to hear what's going on. I'm going to consume a book. I'm going to consume a podcast, or if I'm really wanting to think about deep thought, I'll just walk with my dog and let my mind wander.
Absolutely.
And I think those are critical steps in self-development, and that's part of continuous learning, right?
Well, I've recently started a new habit of meditation, and I'm going to explain that. When I light up an evening cigar sitting on the back patio, sometimes I have a journal with me, and sometimes I just write down thoughts. Sometimes I just sit and think. But I've combined that ritual into me time.
Sure. What is that? I'm going to bring this back to leadership a little bit.
Uh-huh.
How does that, taking that time, that me time, and whether it's reading the book, listening to the podcasts, meditation, journaling, those thought provoking, and I will tell you that sometimes I think listening to, as we're on a podcast right now, sometimes listening to a podcast can become white noise.
Uh-huh.
Right? You just put it on. Listening to a book maybe necessarily become white noise as well. Compared to actually picking up a physical book and reading it, or looking at a Kindle and reading it. How do you channel that personal space so it's not just white noise? It doesn't become just another thing I do.
Well, I'm huge on evaluating my day, my week, my month, my quarter, my year. And I typically start off with what went good today. And this is all going on in my mind. I'm not speaking to myself out loud. And then what could have gone better today.
And I'm going to stop you there for a second because I want you to continue. But I want people that are listening to this to understand that is not just the reflection on this is not just reflection. You are learning continuously about yourself and what you're doing better. So continue.
Absolutely. And then just what went horribly wrong. And usually about this stage, I'll pick up a device and just start making some notes or jotting in a journal. Because reflecting on good, bad doesn't mean it's going to get better without effort. So, Todd, for years, I have evaluated my weeks, months, quarters, years, and what was my biggest pain point. Is there technology or systems that can reduce that pain for the upcoming year? And that all stems from these periods of reflection. I'm now using Notion for my gratitude journal, for my daily journal, so everything is in one place. So I can go to the day and I can recall good, bad, and the ugly. But just recalling it, if you're not putting anything in place, if you're not learning from those experiences, then it's a waste of time, in my opinion. You need to learn and implement new processes, procedures, tech to benefit from that reflection.
So I had I had a friend of mine. She still is a friend of mine. I guess I have a friend of mine. And she recommended, well, I said had me as if like I'm no longer friends with her or she's dead or something, but she's still alive. Franzi, you're still alive. I know you are. And she recommended, well, Franzi as well. She recommended a book called Essentialism. And I read the book, the paperback book. I read that, took notes inside of it. and kind of put it aside. And then one day you were like, hey, I got this book called Essentialism. So you should check it out. Right. And so I have the audiobook. So I went back and I started doing the audiobook. And all this, again, fits into the line of continuous education, continuous learning, bettering yourself, sharpening a saw.
Absolutely.
And there are a few things in that book that I'm bringing to the fore today as we discuss continuous learning and how it becomes an essential task in your day. It's essentialism. It's an essential task. There are things that we can get rid of, right? And whether it's social media or TikTok or whatever, those things that take up time that don't. Now, I'm not saying that you can't learn from social media or TikTok. And Brian, I want you to talk about that in a second. But making a purposeful moment to do to do journaling and to reflect on your day is part of the essential task that you should do. And so I just kind of aligned social media and TikTok. How are you using that tool?
Social media?
TikTok specifically.
I went through, first off, brand new platform. Let's jump on. I got tired of pandas falling out of trees and, primates doing crazy things pretty quickly. So what I did was I cleaned up that feed. I went through and unfavorited every video that wasn't entertainment. Was something I could learn from. I kept. I unfollowed channels like comedians, entertainment, things of that nature. And I went to search and I searched motivation. And I followed a few accounts that focus on motivation. I searched inspiration. I searched leadership. And I rinsed and repeated that process. And I actually have a TikTok account now that when I need a nugget of motivation, inspiration, whatever, I can go to that account and I'm not going to laugh at a panda falling out of a tree onto a bench down a hill. I have other TikTok accounts where I focus on entertainment, me being in the media business. I have one focusing on the cigar world because we run a cigar network, but I do my best to keep those feeds sterile. If a panda comes across, and you got to love panda. It's hard not to watch a panda be silly.
Super cute.
But you've got to swipe off of it fast, because if you pause for just a second, that algorithm's so responsive, you're going to go down that rabbit hole. So when Todd sends me a TikTok via text, I don't know what it is. So I go to my fun account. And if it's motivational, I'll switch accounts, click on the link again to help keep that algorithm tuned for inspiration, motivation, leadership, accountability, learning. And it's a pain in the butt, but it's worth it to me to keep that algorithm clean. I hope that's what you were referring to, Todd.
Absolutely. And my point about that is just because it is social media, and I mean, realistically, I've fallen into the trap. I think we all have, the TikTok time suck. You start looking at it and you're flipping. There's dopamine hits when you go through it. It's designed this way. Next thing you know, it's an hour later and you're like, oh my God, I had a bunch of work to do and now I'm behind.
Right. Todd, you just sent me a TikTok yesterday, I believe it was, about the EMS Disney World.
Yeah.
Flipping hilarious. Brought back fond memories. Brought back, hysterical memories. And I'm glad I went to my fun account to open it up because it is comedic, but it is in the EMS world. And it's hilarious. It really was. I watched it a couple of times. The gentleman that produces it is great. His facial expressions are on point.
I've had him on the show.
Yeah, you've had him on the show. And in that world, you need levity. And sometimes that levity is the hard disconnect from the reality of work. So you can move on to learning, because it's hard to go from 100% to learning without a decompression period. And comedy is a great decompression period if you're struggling with that.
Absolutely. There are times for things and there are times for other that you need to do. So now, kind of bringing our conversation back to continuing education and why it's critical. I want to challenge people out there that are listening to this, that are leaders, that run organizations, that are going, okay, do we have time for this in our organization? And I'm going to say, if you don't make time for this in your organization, your people are you're harming your employees, even potential for advancement, and you're also doing disservice to your clients and customers.
Right.
I know it's a strong statement, but I think when we look at people, organizations that have a high EQ and a high culture of continuous learning, those are places where you want to do business. You know, you take a look at places like Costco, for instance, even Starbucks. And I know the Starbucks is having some labor issues right now, but I bring them up because they pay for college, right? My nephew is a truck driver, for the company that he drives for. They pay for college. The truck driver, you're like, what, why is it important for a truck driver to have college? Well, maybe it's not necessarily important for the truck driver for his job that he has right now to go to college. But man, when he moves up into management, or into other positions within the company, you want to have an educated workforce.
Train them well enough so they can leave, treat them well enough so they stay.
Yeah, absolutely. So we see this in the public sector, right? Public sector, there are cities and jurisdictions that will pay for degrees, but they also are continuously sending people to training programs throughout the country, whether they're paid or not paid. What I mean by that is, like some places like FEMA and whatnot, you can go to school or training programs for free. We have another guy who we know that moved on to working for a company that produces training programs for the tech space. And these companies are spending tens of thousands of dollars to send their employees to these events around the world. And why is that? Because they want to have them continuously being trained. So, Elon Musk again, right? And Apple, for instance, Google, these big, Microsoft, these big tech firms, they all pay for their employees to have continuous education programs going on.
Are we planning on bringing this back to an individual?
Yeah. No, my point is as a if you're a leader in a company, you should embrace that concept of continuous education or continuous learning, because as creating a culture of that within your organization. And I was just pointing out how these large companies that people look up to have that, and that's why they're successful. I believe that's why they're successful. I could be wrong. I haven't done the empirical study or anything like that, but that makes sense.
Let's step away from the successful company and let's go to the successful individual.
Sure.
Let's talk about some strategies for growth on an individual basis. I myself am always in a course of some fashion. Whether it is a book that I'm going to learn from that I can apply to my business, or it's an online course, or it's an on-campus course. There's always learning going on. And I'm enrolled in more classes than I can probably finish this year. However, they're on a list. I check them complete when they're done. When I find a new course that, might be cool, it becomes a level C on my list. I'm not just going to jump in and start it because it's cool, but holding myself accountable for becoming a better leader, a better business owner, a better customer service rep, serving my customer base is so important. And I think one thing a lot of people miss is surrounding yourself with like-minded people. If your circle of friends are into partying and not personal growth, you're going to party with them. Find a new circle. It's okay to party every once in a while, but find a new circle of individuals that cherish personal growth, and they spend their own money, their own time to become better without having to be told to be better. I hear people complaining about my company won't pay for training. Allison.com, edx.org, LinkedIn Learning, Udemy. You can find courses on just about anything within 5 minutes of a Google search. So if there's something you want to learn or want to be better at, how important is it to you? Do you have to be paid to attend training because that's what businesses do? No. You can spend your own dime and you can learn.
EDX is disrupting that learning space.
It should.
You can take classes from elite universities, Yale, MIT, Harvard, Princeton, those type of level, plus other class places, international schools, for free. Now, if you want a certificate, if you want to get credit, you got to pay, but you could basically audit the courses for free, and get the training. I've taken a few courses through EDX.
I have as well, and I'm in a few now.
The one I know you didn't mention it, it's commercial. It's a little more wooey, if you will, called Masterclass. You probably all seen the commercials for it. I subscribe to it.
I subscribed for a year.
Yeah. So I subscribe to it. They're always constantly putting courses in there. But and the reason why I bring this up is when I was in the office, which I probably should unsubscribe because I don't use it as much as I should. But when I was in the office on a regular basis, like I drove to the office, during my lunchtime, I would take unless I had a lunch meeting, I took my lunch by myself, and I went and got my food, and I would sit somewhere on the campus, and I would listen to a masterclass. And that was my time to just decompress from everything and be away from everything.
Right.
And that's what I did. And so it doesn't have to be a formal course. It could just be something as simple as a master class. That the art of storytelling was great, and it was Malcolm Gladwell that taught that course. Right. I mean, think about this. You're learning from one of the best American storytellers that is alive right now. Right. And whether you like his style or not, that's besides the point. It's just like he really is a guy who can tell a good story. There's others that I read too that were, or listened to, that were in that genre. So I think it's important to do that and to be able to take that time. YouTube is another great place. Outside of the silly videos that are on there, you can find some really great educational videos as well.
Most definitely. And I mean, we joke the University of YouTube because you can pretty much learn how to, plug a flat tire to, rough out your frame for a house.
Yeah.
It's fix. I mean, last time, what was it? I was looking for a fuse, and I, searched fuse location in cab 2013 Jeep, right? And YouTube video comes up, and I'm like, oh, it's right there, because there's multiple fuse boxes in that vehicle. And it's amazing how many people do not create playlists so they can go back and refer to videos.
Oh, I use playlists like crazy.
It's like they're giving you the opportunity to organize videos that you liked, and use it as a reference. It is now the new encyclopedia shelf on the bookcase. And going back to it, is paramount, you know?
Well, I'll tell you. I mean, I know most of mine are marked as private, but we do lectures at the one university I work for, and they record all of them. And they put them up on they're up on YouTube. I'm sure there's some way you could probably figure out finagle how to find them, but they're up on YouTube under because we use Google Classroom, so that's why they use it. But yeah, I mean, all those lectures that I've done with students asking questions and interactions and all this kind of stuff are all available. I mean, to the students at least. But I mean, you could probably find them, if you look hard enough.
Yeah. But going back to just basic strategies for growth, calendar that time. So between this hour and this hour on these days, it's one of those things. Tuesdays and Thursdays are my learning evenings, just like if I was going to a campus. Between this time and this time, I'm in a class. And it's not very long. I spend an hour and a half sometimes. If I'm, enthralled, I might go a little longer than usual, but that ensures I'm giving me time. Nobody can book that time to better myself.
So what other strategies do you think like we kind of talked about it with the TikTok, right? Following thought leaders and influencers. Why is that critical to take a look at other thought leaders?
Some people have a different way of articulating how they look at a situation. Especially with computers, there's 20 ways to do a single task, and the way might not be the fastest, but it's the best for you. Right. So learning from others and going back to surrounding yourself with like-minded people. If your peers are in the same mindset as you, they want to become better, and you follow these types of influencers on a social media platform, you're going to learn different ways, different techniques to look at things. Dale Carnegie, they put out a newsletter, and if you're in leadership, management, middle management, even a supervisory role, it's something you should look at. You're going to give them your email address every time, but you don't start getting more emails from them. But they put out some good white papers. They put out, I don't even want to say some basic stuff. There was one I got not too long ago, the golden rule of whatever, golden book of, I forget the title of it. But basically it's how to be a nice person. And I think that's something we miss in today's world. Todd and I, when we're serious, we are extremely nice to each other. We listen to each other. We ask, are you looking for counseling? Or are you looking for a shoulder to cry on? Because I'll be that. When we are in a social environment, we're busting on each other because we're in different branches of the service. But we know that is socially acceptable in the military circle. Outsiders might be like, what the hell? These guys are going to start brawling. No, we're not. We're just being vets, but the simple task you read through is like 25 things of how to be a nice person. And you're like, wow, I fall short. And because I found value in a 25-point list, I open it up every morning and I read those 25 points because I want to be a better human.
So I wouldn't probably put this on a thing where you say, oh, this is sharpening your saw, this is continuous learning. And you and I, we've talked about this a lot in the concept of networking, right? And I know, funny, I just picked up his card. John Dade has a book called "Is Your Network Working?"
Networking.
Is your network networking? Yes. How is networking, and that why would you put that into the context of sharpening your saw?
It's really interesting, and I'll go back and share a story. When I first opened a studio, 3 clients that gave me verbals that they were going to create shows with me didn't. And I found myself in a hurt locker, just signed a lease. I've got rent due. I purchased additional equipment to produce these shows, and I am now 3 paying customers short. So I jumped on meetup.com and I started looking at every networking event, within a 10-mile radius. And I found one called the Irvine Business Lunch Networking Event. And I went, let me check it out. So I go. They give you, depending on how many people, 30 seconds to 2 minutes for your elevator pitch. If it's a larger crowd, you get a shorter period of time. And I went, this is really cool. And they fed us pizza and it was free. So I'm like in a financial bind. I'm getting a free meal once a week and I get to practice my pitch. But I went there with the intention to practice different pitches, evaluate their effectiveness, and refine that pitch. And that was the only real reason I attended that, because you're standing up in front of people you don't know, and you're throwing your best game out there, hoping people will come up and ask for additional information after the event, after everyone's had their time to talk. And I was able to refine my elevator pitch to the point I started gaining customers from that networking event. Cool. But that also gave me the skills, abilities, and knowledge when I go to other networking events, how to pitch better. Mm. And it was very, very helpful. But a lot of people go to networking events. Hi, I'm Bill, I'm Todd, I'm blah, blah, blah. They just want to socialize. Other people go trying to hard pitch everybody. When I go to networking events, this is who I am. If you ask, if you don't, I'm not going to volunteer it. I want to learn about everybody there and see if there's any harmony where I can serve them. And that usually wins out. I'm here for you. We all have customers we can refer to each other. I don't want to sell to you because we're at the same event. I want you to refer people in your circle to me.
What do you learn when you're there? Do you learn about yourself, or do you learn about the way not to do business or the way to do business? Or
if you're attentive, you learn it all.
All right.
I'm the kind of guy that likes to sit back and watch people. And when somebody comes in that may be underdressed and you're watching others kind of, turn their nose up at them, they're prejudging. So I need to talk to them differently than I need to talk to that guy walked in that might be a little underdressed.
There was a guy that you and I, it was your friend, I met him through you, who was a pretty wealthy dude. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us. Pretty wealthy dude. And I remember when I first met him, he looked like a homeless guy. He's like shorts, flip-flops, Hawaiian shirt, uncapped. But the dude like bought all of us dinner and beers and the whole entire night. And he's like, yeah, no big deal. And then we walked out of there and you're like, yeah, that guy's sold his software to Microsoft for, $1 billion or whatever it was. And this guy's, you just never know who you're talking to.
You never do. And that's why you should never prejudge. And that's why opening up this document and reading how to be a nice person humbles me.
I thought it was, I'll tell you, and I go back to this. I don't want to drop his name because, it's not my place to do so. But, for my 40th birthday, a long time ago, he showed up to that and like just bought everything. And I thought that was pretty freaking kind of cool.
He was a very kind, generous guy. He never talked shop. He just wanted to live life. And if you were at the party, one time I pulled out cash before he did. And he took a $100 bill from me, ripped it in half, and gave me half of it back. And he said, next time we're together, we'll put this bill together and we'll split the bill. And I'm like walking around for a year with half of $100 bill in my pocket, and but that's just the kind of guy he was.
Right.
And yeah, he was a cool cat.
But the point is, right, is like here he was who walks in and you'd never know that he might be the person that changed your life.
Yeah.
And you could be in a suit and looking all spiffy and not
Yep.
have a dime to your name.
Yep.
And this guy walks in looking like he's a beach bum. He did like to sail. You know, he's a beach bum and, you know, had enough money in his pocket to probably buy the restaurant you're sitting in.
You know, he lived on a sailboat, and you're like, okay, he lives on a sailboat, but he also had like 4 rental properties all in Orange County. You know,
he had a house in Balboa Island.
Yeah,
And he didn't live in. He just rented it
Yep.
because he liked living on the sailboat.
And some of my best times was, you know, throwing a lobster on the barbecue, hanging off the back end of his boat, sailing back from Catalina, drinking beer. You know,
So I know we're going down memory lane here with him, but the point is, it's like you go to these things, you learn about yourself and you learn about people and you learn what not to be sometimes.
if you walk into a room and you don't take the opportunity to learn from at least one person, you're doing yourself a disservice. You know, I love surrounding myself with people better than me because I want to be better tomorrow than I am today.
I'm going to put 3 things together here, and I'm going to put the three things together. I'm going to let you finish off with them, but I'm going to say some things about them first, and then I'm going to, because we got to get going. I actually have a hard stop today. So one is, you taught me about this a long time ago, is using Google news aggregators, right? So could put that down on your notes. Obviously listen to podcast webinars, but the one is conducting informational interviews, and that is how I actually met Franzi, and she reached out to me to conduct an informational interview about what I do, and then she ended up working for me for a little while, and now she's back doing her freelance stuff. But informational interviews. What do you think of those? And I know you deal with interns a lot. This is why I brought the information interviews. What do you think of those 3 strategies, and how do you combine them?
The first one was, remind me.
So that's what I told you right down, man.
News aggregators.
There we go.
Okay. Google Alerts is a very, very cool tool, and it's free. And you can say, send me info daily, send me info as it happens, or send me 1 email a week. I encourage everybody to create a Google alert with your own name. And it's amazing how sometimes something is shared into a circle that has better SEO, better web presence, and now you're in front of a brand new audience and you had no clue somebody even put you there.
How does that help you sharpen how does that help you sharpen your saw?
Awareness.
Mm.
Of what's going on with your name. Like, there is a Brian Colburn on the East Coast who's a musician. He always pops because he's playing gigs and doing music stuff, you know. There's a Brian Colburn in Georgia that just got arrested for embezzlement or something. But it's good to know what the internet says about you or other people with your same names. Okay. Number 2, if there is something you want to learn, put an alert about it and play with that alert and fine tune that alert. So it's giving you the information you want, but now it's coming to your inbox daily. You know, when things pop off locally in the news, throw up a Google alert. Israel-Palestinian protest near me, because Google knows where you are. And now you've got some information and intel coming in of where to avoid or where to go support. You can look at that any other way, but it's a free tool and you can fine tune it for the type of information you want to improve yourself or inform yourself.
Why do you attend webinars?
To learn. I sign up for every webinar I can, even if my time is booked, hoping that they'll send me a replay. and I add that to my course list. I have a database of courses I'm in, and it just might be click this link, watch this video. It's not really a course, but it was a webinar. And again, you get to learn how people present the same materials you do in a different manner. You get introduced to new people. I take the opportunity to network in chat. And again, I'm not hardcore selling. Hey, this is who I am. This is what I do. I think we should talk. We've got some synergy going on.
And then
finally,
why is it important for students or anybody who's looking to do things to do informational interviews with people?
A couple of points come to mind. Number one, you are learning to ask smarter questions. You are learning to answer questions more smartly. Is smartly a word?
More better.
It is today.
More better.
More better, smarterly. We'll go with that. But it's cool. I mean, I have an intern coming in today, for an interview to work with the studio here for the semester. And I enjoy them, number one. Number two, it gives me the ability to watch body language, watch facial expression, listen to the answers, throw that curveball and see how they handle it, push back on them a little bit and see how they handle it. And that only makes me a better listener and, again, a better interviewer.
Absolutely. All right, Brian. Well, I got to get going, but we will see everybody back here probably January. I hope everybody has a wonderful holiday season. Brian, I wish you a wonderful Thanksgiving that's coming up here in the United States, and a wonderful Christmas. For those that celebrate other holidays, I hope that you guys have a wonderful holiday, whatever you guys celebrate. And until January.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I know you flashed Andrew's comment. Andrew, thank you for listening. And yes, I have Google Alerts set up for my child's name. And if I ever open up my email and she's on a police blotter, at least I know where she is.
This is true. She'll never be in a police blotter. I was wishing people a wonderful holiday season stuff, and you end up with that.
Well, I wanted to address Andrew. He took the time to leave us a cool comment. Appreciate you watching.
Yeah, everybody, have a wonderful holiday season, and we will talk to you later. Stay safe. Stay hydrated. You've been listening to Leaders Cafe, where today's brightest minds come together to share their insights and ideas. Leaders Cafe is an EMN media production. We're so grateful to have you join us. Our podcast is hosted by Todd DeVoe and Brian Colburn. Their insightful conversations and probing questions make every episode a journey worth embarking upon. Special thanks goes to our sound engineers, researchers, marketing team, and everyone who plays a role bringing Leaders Cafe to life. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review us wherever you get your podcast. And if you enjoyed today's episodes, share it with a friend. Word of mouth is the best way to help us grow. For more content, updates, and resources, visit our website and follow us on social media. Links are available in the episode description. For all of us here today at Leaders Cafe and EMN Media Production, thank you for tuning in. Keep leading, keep learning, and we'll see you at the next episode.